Mixed reactions on the Charlotte Hornets selecting 6'9" forward Brandon Miller over the more likable, popular, explosive 6'2" point guard Scoot Henderson of the G League Ignite. This 2023 draft class will always be remembered as the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. When there's a generational can't-miss prospect that comes along every now and then, all 30 teams would have selected the 7'4" French prodigy. Unfortunately for the other struggling teams that strikes out on the first pick, many tough decisions and controversies will be settled within the organization. Who wants what? Almost like gambling on which players will end up being better. In many instances, the same franchise that continues stinking for a long time, being on the worst end of the lottery spectrum, selecting players that couldn't have been any worse, wasting years striking out with top picks, going through endless rebuilds, wasted seasons, terrible scouting, as the players drafted right ahead of them become transcendent superstars. Here's why Charlotte Hornets fans had these reactions after Adam Silver's announcement on the number 2 pick. How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson. After the massive watch parties, fans literally held their breath, said their prayers, even trusted shams on the franchise, leaning towards selecting Scoot hours before the draft, playing with people's emotions and pockets. Months before the trade, it was near consensus Victor would go number 1 and Scoot number 2, but of course a franchise in Charlotte proven to be untrustworthy with their taste and talent wouldn't shock anybody if they picked somebody outside the box. Henderson considered the higher ranked prospect, elite athleticism, maturity, and superstar potential. Some went as far as saying Scoot would go number 1 in most drafts had Victor been in a separate year. A huge debate on whether it's right drafting the greater talent with the better upside or picking the prospect appearing to be a better positional fit due to Charlotte already having a crowded backcourt, LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier, given the height, offensive skills, having a deep back, length at 6'9", a sniper from deep, Jordan Paul George-like comparisons. Miller will now have his hands full looking to live up to the number 2 pick. Doesn't have Scoot's bursts and struggle finishes around the rim at times. Likely won't have the immediate impact like his other draft mates. Scoot viewed as the guy with more star potential, creating on his own, the higher ceiling, consider future superstar material, a can't miss talent. On the bright side, the Hornets actually made back-to-back play-ins before a disaster of a 2023 season, going 27-55. Two main factors: LaMelo limited to 36 games, team went 14-32 without him, plus the suspension of 20-point scorer Miles Bridges. Coming off having the second lowest 3-point percentage, the franchise simply wants to make a serious postseason push now. Instead of waiting to see if Scoot or LaMelo pans out, drafting a highly talented point guard who can't shoot, team simply not in the experimental process as they inch closer to signing Miles Bridges back, who served the remaining 10 games of his suspension. While most of the media attention will be on Scoot and the insane highlights, Miller's name not as eye-popping, likely viewed the starting 3 between a 12 to 18 points per game scoring role player as a rookie. Probably the most realistic scenario when you evaluate the position Charlotte's in. Also drafting 6'5" 2-guard Nick Smith Jr., defensive-minded, ideal for Steve Clifford, given if LaMelo stays healthy. Viewed as their franchise guy, already been an all-star as a replacement. Miles just missed the all-star replacement by a few spots. Having a guy in Miller likely means adios to Kelly Oubre Jr. and James Bouknight. The team simply can't afford going through another massive shakeup, choosing between Scoot and LaMelo. Miller more positional, versatile, longer on defense, given the lack of size of $21 million Terry Rozier, combined with Miller being in a super hostile environment. The game against South Carolina, after the team made the decision not to suspend him, balled out with a 41-point masterpiece plus the game winner, responding very well to pressure. A potential lineup of Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, PJ Washington, LaMelo, with second-year promising center Mark Williams. Off the bench, Dennis Smith Jr., Cody Martin, Gordon Hayward, and Nick Richards could absolutely be a 500 caliber team and hang on to a play-in spot. Taking both perspectives of Miller and Scoot to consideration, clearly more team upside for Miller. Scoot, another ball-dominant player like LaMelo, would ruin Ball's greatest attributes, which are passing and running the offense, and Scoot having shooting issues. A backcourt with him him, Ball, and Rozier a defensive abomination. Even if Brandon Miller doesn't pan out in other aspects of his game first 3 years, unless he's unplayable, with the college success and stroke, Miller at worst at least becomes similar to Keegan Murray with Sacramento, a 41% three-point shooter his first season. Looking back at the franchise's disastrous pick selections since the start of the Bobcats era, Jordan had a minority stake with the team, took control of basketball operations June 15, 2006. Draft happened 13 days later, responsible for taking Adam Morrison third overall. Even though the organization claimed it was Bernie Bickerstaff's decision, when the team needed a two-guard, the draft class relatively weak, the reasonable lottery picks were Brandon Roy, a multiple-time All-Star career cut short to injury, and the solid Rudy Gay. Nobody could have predicted the greatness of 21st pick Rajon Rondo and 24th pick Kyle Lowry. For a 26-win team, the All-Star drafted by the Bulls ahead of Morrison, LaMarcus Aldridge, the first of many gut punches for the franchise lottery luck. The very next year, the 8th pick, without looking, many of you wouldn't have guessed, the forgotten Brandon Wright traded to Golden State for Jason Richardson, selected solid 22nd pick Jared Dudley, but Jay Rich and rookie Dudley traded to Phoenix for Raja Bell, Boris Diaw, and Seat Singletary. A year and a half later, looking to build around Emeka, Raymond Felton, and Gerald Wallace, still 32 wins the 08 season, had the rights to the 9th pick, 20th, and 38th. The debates whether the team should go with 5'11" point guard DJ Augustine, too undersized to share the backcourt with Felton, or high-scoring skilled big man Brook Lopez, a potential mesh with the defensive Okafor up front. An article written by Woj 2010 detailed Jordan was fully prepared to draft Lopez, who slipped, but Coach Larry Brown wanted Augustine. A fatal mistake. Jordan decided to go with Augustine and absolutely shocked Lopez, certain he was going to be picked by Charlotte. Jordan then fired Coach Brown 2 years later alongside his Tar Heel coaching staff. Although Augustine became a solid backup for many years, he wasn't no Brook Lopez, an all-star in his prime who's proven to be one of the most reliable centers, coming off second place in Defensive Player of the Year at age 35. Charlotte then took Alexis Adjacent, 7'2" center from France, 20th, trading away their 2010 first-round pick, another absolute travesty of a decision. The guys picked right after, Ryan Anderson, Courtney Lee, Serge Ibaka, Nick Batum, and George Hill, all became terrific role players, way better than the Frenchmen. All could have been solid pieces to build the team. No major improvement. Still not close to sniffing the postseason. 35 wins. Team drafted Gerald Henderson, the 12th pick of the 09 draft. The worst position to end up. Team wasn't bad enough to draft generational Steph Curry or even DeMar DeRozan, the 7th and 9th pick. To his credit, Henderson became one of the most beloved Charlotte players, spent 6 seasons with the team, being just okay. 2010, team finally made the postseason. The trades for vets Steven Jackson and Tyson Chandler made Charlotte better, but team already reached its peak with only one of two decisions: either compete for a first-round exit or restart from scratch. Team went with the second option, trading their best player Gerald Wallace for 2 big future firsts, used one of the picks to select Kemba Walker 11. The following year, the brightest player under Jordan's tenure as owner, drafted Tobias Harris at 19, but traded right away for an older Corey Maggette, and 7th pick in the same draft, Bismack's supposedly 18-year-old Biyombo also got rid of Steven Jackson. Went all-out tank mode, a historic 7-59 record, arguably the worst NBA team all time, aiming to tank for generational prodigy Kentucky's Anthony Davis, but unfortunately, just like they were a pick away from Wemby, 1 pick away from AD, number 2 pick a toss-up, ultimately Jordan and the Hornets went with AD's college teammate Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Ended up a massive disappointment with good defense before the injuries, but a god terrible shooter. The worst year all time for the Charlotte franchise, being the worst team by a 13-game margin and still losing in the lottery. It wasn't because of MKG's skill sets, but the winning character, a Swiss Army knife who plays hard at 6'8", with all-time great defensive potential. Charlotte hoping his jump shot would improve, but if anybody shoots like that, Lord have mercy. Kidd-Gilchrist jumper never improved. Could have went with Florida's Bradley Beal, even Dame Lillard mid-major Weber State, or an okay Harrison Barnes, way better options. Team improved to the second worst record in the league, awful 21 wins, only managed to get the 4th pick, a complicated week 2013 class, no sure locks, went with Indiana center Cody Zeller, nothing more than an average player. While future superstar Giannis, pick 15, still an unknown at the time, but key wings like a Kentavious Caldwell-Pope or CJ McCollum alongside Kemba would have paid off massively. Zeller's presence limited due to 29-year-old Al Jefferson signing as a free agent, 3 years $41 million, a proven 20 and 10 guy, helped elevate the franchise 4 games above 500, a playoff team. Gaining more leverage with the help of the Gerald Wallace 2 first-round picks the following year, team needed a wing for the 2014 draft, but selected the 6'10" Noah Vonleh out of Indiana over guys who can stretch the floor like Dario Saric, Zach LaVine, and TJ Warren. Traded 24th pick Shabazz Napier for PJ Hairston, could have had Bogey Bogdanovic or even Kyle Anderson. Better players drafted right after, ended up winning just 33 games, Big Al's production dipped, Walker missed 20 games, having a loaded front court with Big Al, Vonleh, Cody Zeller, and Biyombo. Team went on to select another tall white guy from the Big Ten. The National Player of the Year Frank Kaminsky out of Wisconsin. Fresh off a title game appearance, Frank considered the most NBA ready at the time, over the likes of Justice Winslow and Devin Booker. Even Miles Turner would have been nice. Even worse off, Charlotte refused Boston's offer of 4 first-round picks, one of whom an unprotected 2018 Brooklyn's pick. The C's desperately wanting Justice Winslow. Instead, Boston drafted a better player at 16, Terry Rozier, who they later did a sign and trade with Charlotte 4 years later in the Kemba deal. Franchise back to the playoffs 2016, led by the much-improved Kemba, Big Al, newly acquired Nick Batum and his fat contract alongside Jeremy Lin. About to win a first-round series, only for Dwayne Wade to absolutely destroy.
Had not hit a three-pointer since December and knocks down 2 here in the 4th quarter.
Abuse, annihilate, and humiliate.
Wade leans in, falling away, puts it in! Dwayne Wade does it again!
Mr. Purple Shirt Man, 0 playoff appearance since. Team ended up in no man's land. Next 3 years, 36, 36, and 39 wins. Pick Malachi Richardson in 2016. The 22nd pick didn't hurt, but in 2017, the 11th pick drafted Malik Monk, a high explosive scoring guard out of Kentucky. Didn't quite develop with the team. Viewed a bust, let him walk in free agency summer 2021 after declining his qualifying offer. Now a terrific role player. Team could have drafted sharpshooter Luke Kennard or the immediate impact Donovan Mitchell, or even future multiple-time All-Star center Bam Adebayo. The 2018 draft picked Kidd-Gilchrist Alexander, another Kentucky guard. As long as you draft multiple guards who play for John Calipari, one of them's gotta be good. But wait, team traded him to the Clippers for Miles Bridges, who got in massive trouble involving domestic violence. The 2019 draft, team selected Kentucky's PJ Washington. The next guy selected after, Kentucky's Tyler Hero. Team stinked in 2020, allowing Terry Rozier and second-year Devontae Graham to put up high scoring numbers, chucking 30 shots a game. Landed the 3rd pick, drafted LaMelo Ball, their first respectable lottery choice in a long time. The only guy in the lottery drafted after you could make a case over LaMelo, Tyrese Halliburton, 12th overall. Summer 2021, team waived Caleb Martin. While twin brother Cody remained, Caleb nearly won Eastern Conference Finals MVP with Miami 2 years later. 2021's 11th pick, James Bouknight, looking like he will be out of the league in a year, arrested for drunk driving. After all the off-court drama with Miles Bridges, former Hornets Devontae Graham also caught driving while impaired, and Hornets free agent Montrezl Harrell having a felony charge, later changed to a misdemeanor for getting caught with weed. PJ Washington getting scammed, forcing to pay child support for his baby mama. Fans absolutely burned out by the off-court foolishness of the team's players. Now newly acquired Brandon Miller, indirectly involved, and 41st pick Imani Bailey, where Drake attended his high school games, not actually watching his game, but putting in game himself. briefly dated his mom for a bit, the Gen Z's poor man's version of the Portland Trailblazers, the crazy personalities and drama, all the chaos surrounding the team. If you were in MJ's spot as owner, you'd think about selling the team too. At least Jordan's now $3 billion richer. Although many can blame Charlotte's lack of success, being in a small market, the lack of big name attractions, those factors are absolutely true, but striking out constantly with the draft picks, whether being one pick too late, given many chances in getting things right, but couldn't have been more wrong, 13 years of owning the team, outside of the draft picks and all the disasters, 3 total playoff games won, 0 50-win seasons. The 2 best decisions Michael Jordan made, changing the Charlotte Bobcats back to the Charlotte Hornets, start of the 2014-15 season, and not offering Kemba the Supermax, a controversial decision that upset many fans at the time. After making All-NBA team, elected to take the better Terry Rozier for a fraction of the price. The team looking like it's finally heading towards direction. As long as Miller pans out, given the historic bad lottery picks, Jordan's one last lottery choice could either make or break the franchise going forward. Combined with the help of LaMelo, the lasting impression of Jordan's ownership tenure will depend on how Brandon Miller turns out. If Scoot turns out to become the way better player, an MVP caliber guy like a Dwayne Wade or Russell Westbrook, and Miller ends up being just okay like Otto Porter caliber, the franchise will forever regret this pick. But if Miller does become as good as a Brandon Ingram or Paul George, and even ends up being the better player over Scoot, the Hornets certainly will have a bright future ahead. Too much remains uncertain for now, conflicting emotions amongst many Charlotte Hornet fans. As 100 of these different fans about this year's pick and the future, we might just get 100 different opinions, from the Bernie Bickerstaff front office to Rod Higgins, Rich Cho, and 2018 to present day Mitch Kupchak, squandering every opportunity handed. Another year goes by. Could this be the moment the past can finally be shoved aside? Having a good franchise player or two, forming good culture, focus on winning, and having the right pieces surrounding your star players, much to be determined. The start of the 23-24 season will give us an early taste of the Abe Plotkin and Rick Snall era. Lots of pressure will be put on the 20-year-old. A fascinating NBA journey awaits. The Charlotte Hornets' future, optimistic or pessimistic? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.